you, everyone. Sorry, sorry for that. Welcome to the first Coastal Coral of 2021. We're so happy that you're all here with us. Part of us wished we were in person, catching up with you all, but because we're not, it means that we're able to have people like Lisa, who are located on the other side of the country in very cold Hobart. So in a way, we're lucky that we're able to be online and connect with people who live far and wide. Oops. Okay. Yes. So tonight we've got Lisa-ann Gershwin, who's going to be talking to us about jellyfish. Lisa is, I would say, don't quote me, but maybe quote me, one of the, if not the leading experts on jellyfish in Australia. So we're super lucky to have her share her knowledge and passion with us tonight. Yeah, we're super excited just from seeing a few of her slides already. I'm so excited to see what's coming, and I hope you all are too. Alrighty, so secondly, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of all the lands that we're on tonight and pay respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. We acknowledge and respect the continued connection to land and sea country. And I think that's a really important thing for us to all know what country we're on and who are the traditional owners of the country that we're on. So reef check, it would be interesting to see who's been involved with any of our events before. But for those who don't know, Reef Check Australia believes in promoting, I can't even see my screen now. Reef Check Australia believes in promoting reefs and oceans by empowering people, and we do that through research and education, grassroots community empowerment, and helping people to understand what they as individuals can do to help support the oceans and the reefs. So a big part of that is these events, which we hopefully bring experts in any ocean conservation field to you guys and to us, because we will always want to learn more and know more, because what we know and understand, we can better protect. So just some housekeeping, now that we've hopefully got all that nonsense out of the way, as in my technical difficulties. So you're all muted and your videos are off. So that's just to help with the bandwidth and keep mine and Lisa's connection as strong as possible. If you're not already on the mailing list, the Reef Check Australia mailing list, you can send an email to the email address on the screen. That way you can get updates when we do have any events coming up, or if you've got any follow-up questions, you can send them through to us and we can get in touch through that way. We send out monthly newsletters, which has shout outs to other organizations and some updates on what we're up to, which is always a cool thing to know. As you think of questions throughout the talk, we will ask if you can use the chat box to type them in, and we'll get them at the end. So Lisa's going to talk for a little while. She might answer some of your questions. But we do want all of your questions. We're just going to save them for the end. So if you think of something, punch it in and we'll keep a track of the questions that have come in, and we'll get to them after the talk. So we are going to do the group photo. I might, only because of how unnecessarily difficult that was, wait to stop sharing my screen just before I hand over to Lisa. So I've got to stop sharing my screen in order to take the group photo. But so hold that thought, get ready to smile after I introduce Lisa, and we'll do it in between the handover, and then Lisa can share her screen and hopefully be more successful than me. Yes, that's all. So otherwise, kick back and relax. So a few upcoming events. We have Beer Yoga. Some of you might be familiar with that. We've got two events coming up. One's on the 22nd of February. The other one's in April, so we've got a little bit of time. But the tickets for the February one are on sale. You can jump online to get them. It's at Your Maid's Brewhouse in Warana. Yeah, it's a cool event, and we hope that you can come. Noosa Council is also hosting a climate week, which is on the 21st to 28th of March. It's leading up to Earth Hour, and the concept of the event is to showcase all the different, not all, some of the things that people in Noosa and Sunshine Coast are doing to take action across the area, the region, to reduce emissions and adapt to the impacts of climate change. This is really exciting. When a few people I know working for Noosa Council, I've been hearing about this for a little while. It's been in the pipeline, so it's really exciting. So if you can get along to any events, please do and support this event and let them know that this is the kind of stuff that we want to see, because the more successful an event is, the more likely it is to happen again. So Switch Off is another yoga event that we are holding for Earth Hour on the night of Earth Hour. It's probably going to be a little bit earlier than this time because this is the time of Earth Hour. So we'll run it a little bit before this so that if you want to get home, switch your lights off again. Otherwise, if you're already out, just leave them off. So yes, this is a really cool event and we hope that you can see us. I know I will definitely be there. Yeah, it's a really cool event. Last year we did it online, which was interesting. We had Adam Sellers from the Pressure Project, and we were all in our dark living rooms with a candle. That was really special, but we get to be there together, so this is really exciting. And next month's talk, like this, will be online again. We'll be hearing from Louise Tossetto. I feel like I should say that better being Italian, but I've probably butchered it. But yes, this is going to be talking about a fish can change its stripes. Why do goatfish change color? So it's going to be another interesting one, and we look forward to that. And because it's been so long since we've seen you all, we just wanted to update and do a few little shout outs. So this was very exciting. There was a whale shark sighting on the 27th of January in Noosa National Park, which was she could have been a boy. They unfortunately beached themselves like in the very shallow water, but people managed to get the shark out, which was lucky, but very exciting to see them all, see that here. Yeah, I thought, yeah, so Let Me See had some pretty cool photos if you want to check that out. Also, we had a loggerhead turtle lay some eggs on Thompson's Beach, which was a very interesting spot for her to walk up through the mud flats and lay her eggs there. So thanks to, I think we had some Turtle Care and Coast Care volunteers, along with the Kondamuka Aboriginal Corporation and QPWS, helped to relocate the nests and put them in a better place, I think on, Stradbroke Island, just because, so nests are relocated when they're at risk of any sort of threat, so tidal inundation or erosion. If, like with the recent storms we had on the coast, nests were relocated if they were too close to the dune edge, which they might get washed in the sea. So all of the volunteers worked tirelessly to help move them up off the beach. So this was a very interesting one down at Redlands. And we had, some of you might have been there to clean up for the hatchlings, which was last Saturday week. Where we had, I think it was their record, 697 volunteers across 19 sites, collected a total of 495 kilos of rubbish, which was an amazing result. It was a really cool event, spread from Coolum to Caloundra. Like I said, I think, 18 or 19 sites, and reef check divers snorkeled in the Mooloolah River and removed 23.7 kilos of rubbish. And this photo here of the microplastics, it's funny how so much microplastics were picked up on the day, which you think of how much that little amount would weigh, is nothing relatively to the 500 kilos, but it's so important to get those little bits. So for all the volunteers, some people on the call brought in some couches on their cars. So thank you to those people, and thank you to the people who picked up the little microplastics, because it's so important to get those little bits. I take with me on my beach walk like a reusable produce bag, put all these little nasties in, and then the sand just drops through, and hopefully by the time you get home all the sand's full and then you just empty it in the bin. You don't end up with sand everywhere. So that's a little tip if you want to do that. Oh, and I should say thanks to your mates for donating their reused mulch bags. So here is all, which would have just been sent to landfill. So I don't know how many bags, but like heaps and heaps of bags were used to pick up rubbish on the day. So that was an amazing gift from them for us to use to pick up the rubbish, and diverting that from landfill, or to give it another life before it goes. There's just a survey that's open down the Shelley to Moffat Beach coastal strip. It's to understand what the community values and what we would like to see happen in the area, particularly around nesting turtles and coastal biodiversity. So this is a really important one. It closes on the 22nd. So we've got a couple of weeks, or a couple of weeks to jump on. I think the more people that tell council what we want to hear, what we want to see, and they hear what we want, is really important, because it's opportunities like this that could pop up. If you don't get involved and then decisions are made that you don't agree with, well, then you should have got involved. So this is an opportunity to get involved. So I really recommend you doing that. Speaking of getting involved, if you want to get involved with Recheck, there's lots of ways you can help us. We do the reef surveying through the dives the reef sites off the coast, and we hold events and we do a lot of different things. A lot of you are familiar with what we do. If you do want to get involved, jump on our website, hit the Get Involved tab, or reach out to one of us. We're always happy to have a chat. And we'd always love to see some extra people helping us when you get a chance. We're on all the socials. If you want to like, follow, learn from us and share with us, we would love that as well. And I think, thank you to everyone. So we've got a few new sponsors this year. So we're super grateful to have the support of everyone you guys for showing up, and all of our sponsors to help make this happen and make these events exist. And thank you to everyone who helps behind the scenes. It takes a village, and these events are definitely no exception. Tonight, especially, a few of us have to, not me, some of others have to disappear for another meeting. So we've been trying to coordinate the best we can and get this event up and running. So thank you to everyone. It takes a lot, but we're always happy to show up, and we're always happy to be here, and it's engaging with you guys which makes this worth it. So yes, and thank you to you for showing up. So I'm going to introduce Lisa, and then Lisa, when I stop sharing my screen, I'll do the group photo. So you'll have a little minute to start sharing your screen. So Lisa is a research scientist, writer, and artist, and is the director of the Australian Marine Sting Advisory Services and member of the Tasmanian Independent Science Council. As the world's leading expert, maybe I undersold her earlier. As the world's leading expert in jellyfish identification, classification, ecology, and safety, Dr. Gershwin has described over 200 species of jellyfish and a dolphin, no biggie, published more than 70 peer-reviewed scientific papers, no biggie, written 2 best-selling books, and created the Jellyfish app. I hope you talk about that, because that's a really cool app.
I'm very proud of that, by the way.
I would be too. I'm proud for you. Originally from the US, her passion for jellyfish started as a volunteer, and her unquenchable fascination led to a PhD scholarship at Berkeley. A Fulbright fellowship originally brought her to Australia, where she became interested in Irukandjis and completed a PhD at James Cook Uni. She now calls Tasmania home, where she remains active in research, safety, and writing. Whew, how exciting.
And I'm wearing my fleece, which seems really weird to everybody in Queensland.
Lucky you. I'm sweating here, just sitting here, so I wish I was rugged up in a fleece. Alrighty, so that's it. This is going to be amazing. I'm really excited for this. I'm going to hopefully stop sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Now, when I can see you all as a gallery view. Oh no. Okay, hold on. Yeah, okay, gotcha. If you want to be in the photo, we're going to take a photo soon. So if you want to turn your video on, please do. Mish or Mitch, you just asked what question. While people are turning that on, the app is called the Jellyfish app. All right, I'll give you a few 10 seconds.
Yeah, it wasn't very creative in the naming, but it definitely does what it says.
That's good. Jellyfish app Pro, cool. Alrighty, faces, how exciting. A few more if anyone wants to, otherwise.
Come on guys, we can do this.
Yep, yes, another one. Karen, hi.
I don't know that bowling counts.
Karen's the legend who, Karen's the legend who rocked up with a couch on her car to clean up. That was impressive. Alrighty, 5 seconds and then that's it, I reckon. Alrighty, for those who are on, we can smile. Cheese. Alright, I heard my clicker. Another one, cheese. You can do a silly face if you want. Okay, I was the only one. Amazing, cool. Alrighty. Now Lisa has the chance to share her screen, and she's going to take it away. Like I said,
right.
any
Let me see if I remember how to do this. Okay. Oops. No, wrong one. This one. No, wait. Why is it doing that? Hang on. Uh-oh.
I feel you. I feel you. We run through these things. It goes
okay, let's see if that's gonna work. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. It's really hard to say.
Yep, perfect. You're on. And then just hit, presenting.
Well, I'm trying to hit slideshow. No, wait. Okay, hang on.
I can talk.
Ah! Okay, bit of a Luddite with these things here. Okay. Hello. Wow. Holy cow. We got it to work. And see, there's my little Jellyfish app called the Jellyfish app. So I can't remember the name of the person who asked, but there it is. I'm very proud of that thing. Okay, so I want to talk to you guys tonight about jellyfish. There's been a lot of attention lately to jellyfish. Things like this. This was 5 days ago at Bondi. Yes, those are blue bottles, and I would call that an absolutely gasp-worthy photo. I do have permission from the photographer to use it, and wow, seriously, that just amazes me. I would have loved to have been there, and I totally get that I'm the only person on Earth who would have liked to have been there at the time, but what can I say? Okay, so, while that's all very cool, and it is, I actually want to talk to you about something a bit more serious. I want to talk to you about Irukandji. So before we get into this, there's, I just want to see, I want to do a poll to see how many people think that Irukandji are migrating south to Southeast Queensland with climate change. Can we get that poll to come up?
Hopefully people can see that. Yep, so we'll start seeing answers come in, and then after we get a few, we'll share the results.
I love that somebody said phone a friend. That's so cool.
Wonder what friend? Maybe you're the friend.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly right. Raylene, did you do that?
All right, so we've got 16 of 18 responses, so I'm gonna, 16 of 19. I'm gonna end that and then share it.
All right, cool.
And the results, so people will be able to see that.
Well, isn't this interesting? So yes and no is half and half divided. So let me here. How do I just stop?
I think I got rid of it for you.
Oh, okay. It's still on my thing, but I don't, hang on, let me, okay. So I'm hoping that we will be able to dispel some myths and emphasize some truths surrounding that. So this little bastard that I've got on the screen, oh, I probably shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. I'll try to keep my language polite. So this little friend of mine that we've got on the screen, to give you an idea of the size, wait, I don't know if you can see. So this vial that I'm holding in my hand and that little guy inside is a full-grown Irukandji, CROAKER barnesii, the same species that's in the photo on the screen. And this is what the fuss is all about. When you hear in the media about Irukandjis migrating south and all that, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the tropical species, the common species. There are 6 species of Irukandjis in Queensland, but the common tropical one is the one that everybody thinks is on the way. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Oops, uh-oh, come on, thing. Hello. Uh-oh, it's not working. Okay, wait, okay.
Mine was slow moving as well, so maybe.
Oh, okay, cool. So So before I get into the southerly migration question, I just wanted to get us all on the same page of what Irukandji syndrome is and why we should care, or what Irukandjis are and why we should care. So Irukandjis are a group of jellyfish. There's, like I said, 6 species in Queensland that are known. There's 16 species named and classified the world over. And FYI, I've named and classified 14 of the 16. Very proud of that. So if you don't like Irukandjis, you can blame me. Okay, I'll accept that. But here's the thing. I mean, if it weren't for the sickness that they cause us, they would just be another species. Okay, cool, right? But no, they're not cool. They're dangerous. They're deadly, actually. Irukandji syndrome is why. It starts with severe lower back pain. So first, sorry, let me say, you get a sting from a jellyfish. Usually the skin pain is fairly mild, although sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes about half the time you don't even feel it at all. You get severe lower back pain is the first you know about it, and then severe nausea and vomiting, difficulty breathing, profuse drenching sweating, full body cramps and spasms, a feeling of impending doom. That's one of my favorite symptoms. And some species cause high blood pressure or hypertension, and in rare cases there have been deaths from Irukandjis. So they are serious. They are absolutely worth not getting stung by. This is one of my favorite photos of Irukandjis. This is obviously a swarm that you would not want to lose your footing on the deck and fall in. Excuse me. This was taken by a friend of mine who was obviously very fully clothed and all of the, protective clothing in case, there was any splash or anything like that. But we do get swarms like this. It's pretty frightening when it happens, even to me, and I'm used to them. I love this photo. This is actually, this is 3 different species of Irukandjis in the same photo. It's not a montage. They were actually together at the same time. So these right here are CROAKER, the one I just showed you, the common Irukandji. This is Malo kingi, a species that I named and classified in 2005. It's highly toxic. It is responsible for killing a person. We know that. So I would not mess around with that one. Well, I wouldn't mess around with any of them, actually. And this bad boy he's just a baby, but this is what we call Morbaka. This one is going to recur in the next few slides. The reason is Morbaka, its name comes from Moreton Bay. And so this is Southeast Queensland's native Irukandji species. It's in the Irukandji family. It causes Irukandji syndrome, and it can be one bad boy. So anyway, that's good old Morbaka. Here's Morbaka, a much more splendid photo of it, taken in an aquarium by my friend Merrick at the Queensland Museum. This sucker gets the size of a takeaway mocha. It can be quite huge. And sometimes the sting isn't so bad. Sometimes it's very serious. We do have life support cases caused by Morbaka, so it can be quite serious. You do not want to mess with this guy. This is another one of my favorite photos. This is Carnix fleckeri, the deadly box jellyfish. This is Morbaka, and this is CROAKER barnesii. 2 Irukandjis and a box jelly in the same photo. I mean, it was an amazing thing. I never would have expected it. If Johnny hadn't taken it, I just would have said, oh yeah, that's been mocked up. But no, it's for real. He really saw it. All right, so I want to talk about some myths and truths about Irukandjis migrating south with climate change. There's been a lot of media saying that it's happening. It almost sounds like it's for real. It almost sounds like there's a ton of evidence behind it, but there's not. So let's unpack this. So people think that there's only one species of Irukandji and it's really small. When in fact, like I said, there's 16 species and they range from 1 centimeter body height to a 0.5 meter body height plus tentacles. I mean, that's just the body, you know, so they're not all small, and they're not all in Queensland, and they're not all in Southeast Queensland, just saying. People think that Irukandji do not currently occur in Southeast Queensland, but that they're migrating south, when in fact, we know that Morbaka goes way back in Southeast Queensland and in New South Wales. I'll show some dates in, I think, the next slide or thereabouts. But, you know, Morbaka was on the front page of the Courier Mail in 1954. And, you know, it goes way back beyond that. So it's definitely not, so Irukandjis as a group are not new to Southeast Queensland. We hear in the media that Irukandji are migrating south from the tropics. Let me emphasize as clearly as possible, there is zero evidence that any tropical Irukandji species has migrated or is migrating or will migrate south. That's not to say it can't happen. It's just to say that there is zero evidence that it has or is or will. What about stings at Fraser Island? You know, there's a lot of speculation. Is it the tropical species? Is it something else? Okay. The only species of Irukandji that has ever been confirmed from Fraser Island was actually a species that I named and classified from Broome in Western Australia. No idea how it got to Fraser Island. Honestly, don't even ask me unless we have red wine handy, because I'll talk your ear off about it, but it's probably not fit for public consumption. But no tropical Irukandji species from Queensland has been positively reported at Fraser Island. So that question is hanging out there, waiting to be found. What exactly is the species there? But, you know, it doesn't look like it's a migration, because Irukandjis have been at Fraser Island since the beginning of time, and much further south than that anyway. People also think that Fraser Island stings are new and that these are proof of a southerly migration. Well, Irukandji stings at Fraser have been known since 1955, and Moreton Bay since the late 1800s. So I would not call that anything new. Okay, here we go. Here's the slide I mentioned. So the oldest Irukandji case that we know of, you know, outside of the tropics, was in 1893, not a misprint, 1893 in Moreton Bay. And we've got 3 cases of Irukandji syndrome in 1905 in Botany Bay of New South Wales, dozens more cases in 1930 in Botany Bay, New South Wales, 2 stings that made the front page of the Courier Mail in 1954, 26 cases in Moreton Bay in 1957, blah, 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 blah. You know, these are not rare outside the tropics. So the point that I'm trying to make here is, when you read in the media about Irukandjis migrating south from the tropics to Southeast Queensland because of climate change, it's making a bunch of leaps between facts that it's not an evidence-based conclusion. Irukandjis are already south of the tropics and have been for a hell of a long time. Oh, language, sorry. Hell isn't that bad, right? Renee, is that all right? Okay. It's kind of it's a gray word, right? All right, so the $1 million question, is it safe to swim in Southeast Queensland? This is what everybody wants to know. My answer is, there is currently no evidence that the risk of jellyfish stings has changed in 100 years in Southeast Queensland. The Irukandjis that occur in Southeast Queensland are dangerous. I don't want to mislead you, but they're very rare, and they don't seem to be stinging anybody any more today than they've stung in past years. That's not to say that they won't, it's just to say there's no evidence that there's any change. So, you know, there's obviously a lot more research needs to be done on all of these things to find out. And I just want to put in a really great plug for the Sunshine Coast Council, which is doing a research project monitoring for changes in the ocean relating to potential Irukandjis. And in the several years that I've been involved with that project, we have not found Irukandjis, and I'm absolutely certain that if they were there, we would have found them. We haven't even found Morbaka. We know it's dead. Yep.
Can I pipe up? I might put the link in. I'll check if they've still got their webpage active on that, because they had a webpage on their website. So if it is, I'll chuck it in the comments. So if anyone's interested in looking into that more, because I agree, it's a really, really cool project.
Yeah, it is a cool project. And, you know, they're finding really amazing stuff, but, you know, no northern Irukandjis. Interesting. Funny that.
But super handy to have a baseline, right? And that's the point.
That's exactly.
To have a baseline of what is here. And that's what
it's all about, is establishing a baseline of what is here so that we can see what changes occur over time. Yeah.
Amazing.
All right.
Cool. I'll find
so people ask me how to be safe from jellyfish stings, because FYI, Irukandjis are not the only nasties in the water. There's those blue bottle things, there's sea lice, there's all kinds of things, you know, there's sea nettles and lion's manes and blah, 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 blah. So how do you be safe? Talk to the lifeguards, wear protective clothing. Oh, wait, we forgot. I blew it. Back up.
Back it up.
Okay, you guys, okay.
We've got a poll.
Eject what I just said, okay? We've got a poll, another poll for you. Okay, fire away, guys.
Good luck. May that be ever in your favor.
Yeah, good luck, that's all I can say.
Might take a while because we've got a lot of potential answers.
Yeah, seriously.
and Lisa, you might want to add that these are all valid reasons, right?
Well, these are all reasons that have been given to me. Okay.
Valid.
I have literally heard every single one of these reasons. So good luck.
Someone's getting their friends to weigh on them. Awesome.
Oh, are they? Okay, I need to scroll down. I can't see that one. Oh, excellent.
All right, we've got 8 of 18 have responded. If you want to get your answers in, I might leave it open for 10 more seconds.
Okay, come on, guys, make my day. Answer these, please. It's just for fun, I promise.
All right, I'm going to close it down in 3, 2, 1. Do you want me to share the results?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, they should be sharing.
Okay, so 3 people think get a friend to weigh on you before swimming. 2 people offer treasure. 2 people pray before swimming. I reckon that's probably the one there, pray before swimming. One of my favorites was douse yourself in vinegar before swimming. Can I just point out it's water soluble? That won't really help you. And swim like a turtle, I swear to you, I'm sorry to take the time out of the presentation to talk about this, but I just feel like I must. I was collecting Irukandjis one day, getting hundreds of them on the day. A guy's swimming by and I'm like, oi, out of the water. And he's like, oh yeah, what's up? And I said, we're catching Irukandjis today, hundreds of them. And he goes, oh, no, it's okay, I got it covered. I swim like a turtle and they're scared of me, so they swim away. And I'm like, all right, enjoy your swim.
Off you go, little guy.
What would you say? All right, cool. So stop sharing results. Let's go back to this. Okay, hang on, how do we get rid of this? Okay, cool. All right. Oops, come on, thing. Come on. It doesn't want to. Come on.
Mine was doing that before.
All right.
I think it just takes a.
Yeah. So as I was saying before, talk to the lifeguards, wear protective clothing, look for salps and jelly buttons. These are salps, and these things occur in tremendous numbers when Irukandjis are around, not so much when other species are necessarily around, and they do occur without Irukandjis, but generally speaking, if there's a chance, like if you're in North Queensland and you see tons of these, get out of the water or don't go in the water. In Southeast Queensland, you're more likely to see these just a couple times a year. And we have not associated them with Irukandjis in any way yet. So here's salps that have beached themselves in the sand. Also sea lice, you can feel them on your skin, and they're unpleasant, so you kind of go, there's something in the water, you know. And douse suspected stings with vinegar to kill the stinging cells so they don't continue to pump more venom into your skin. You know, vinegar is controversial in Southeast Queensland. If you get a blue bottle sting, rinse well with seawater and use ice or hot water for the pain. If you have any reason to suspect you may have been stung by a morbaca, or if you're in the tropics and you don't know what stung you, absolutely hit it with vinegar. It's your best chance of minimizing the venom going into your skin. Okay. I want to talk about some other aspects of jellyfish, because there's the stingy parts. I mean, you know, most of us, we think of jellyfish, we think of sting, but there's a whole nother aspect to jellyfish that my work is really focused on. And I think it's something we're not talking enough about because it's a really visual indicator of what's going on in the oceans. Let's think about what we want from the oceans. We want seafood and plenty of it, good fishing and plenty of it, good diving and plenty of it, surfing and plenty of it. We want to be able to walk on beautiful romantic beaches with the one we love. And we want our kids to be able to play with, you know, seashells and tide pools and things. And animals in the Southern Hemisphere, I should say, sorry, animals at the South Pole, we want to be happy. And animals at the North Pole, we want to be happy. And I'm pretty attached to every second breath I take. And half of our oxygen comes from the sea. So if that's not a good reason to care about the health of the ocean, I really don't know what is. But the reality of our oceans is a little bit different from this romantic idea that we have about, you know, how awesome the ocean is. The reality is fish are becoming less plentiful and smaller. We are fishing out the oceans. Many fish are becoming toxic. We are poisoning our food supply. Plastic is an unbelievable problem in the ocean. It is absolutely gobsmacking how much plastic ends up in the sea. In fact, every piece of plastic ever made still exists. Think about that. That's really incredible. Plastic has only been around since the 1940s, and not a single bit of it has yet disappeared. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller, but it hasn't yet disappeared. So we have no idea how long it will actually last. Seabirds ingest pieces of plastic thinking, ooh, that colorful thing must be a fish, must be food. And we are absolutely killing off seabirds this way. Introduced species are expanding into damaged habitats. Down here in Tasmania, where I live, the sea urchins have killed off our kelp forests. They've killed off the lobster population. They're killing off the abalone population. Well, they're just taking over the habitat, basically, you know, eating all the food. You know, we are not the only place suffering from these or other introduced species. Red tides are a massive problem many places around the world, including here in Tasmania. We get these beautiful displays of bioluminescence. You may have seen some in the news or on Facebook. It's become a tourist attraction for people to come and photograph and see and dance in the bioluminescence at night, but it's because of red tides. If you think this is a gravel road, look again. These are dead fish. This is a school of fish that swam into this bay that had no oxygen because of red tides, and the fish simply suffocated. And more dead fish. And more dead fish. We're spewing unbelievable amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And it's warming the oceans, it's warming the air, it's warming everything. And the corals are absolutely taking it in the shorts because of it. This photo horrifies me. This is dead coral that's been overgrown by macroalgae, and that's a one-way process. The coral cannot recover from that. And yet we continue to spew more and more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, making it worse every single day. Ice floes melting, and polar bears have no way to catch food, so they're eating their own young. And organisms like sea butterflies, pteropods, which have a type of shell that disintegrates more quickly than most other types of shells. And sea butterflies are the food for basically everything bigger than a sea butterfly. Plus, they're awfully cute. I mean, anything called a butterfly's got to be cute, right? And these guys are. But as the oceans are absorbing the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, it's turning the oceans more acidic, and it's corroding away the shells of the sea butterflies as if they have osteoporosis. It's also dissolving away corals. This is actually an experimental photo. I mean, it's a photo of an experimental situation. But, you know, it is, as the ocean water becomes more corrosive, it is dissolving away things with shells and skeletons. And something else doesn't seem to be minding. So jellyfish are taking up the slack. When everything else is suffering, jellyfish are going, woohoo, bonus. Now, this is one of my very favorite species. This is one of the, a species of Catastylus, the blubbers, common to Queensland. And it's awfully beautiful when you look at it like this, but less beautiful when you look at it like this. And this was in Moreton Bay about 3 or 4 years ago. Oh, maybe 5. Anyway, recently. Oh, sorry about the fuzzy. I need to get a hold of Charlotte Lawson and get a higher res photo. If anybody knows Charlotte, please have her contact me. But this was at Deception Bay a few years ago. These are, again, the blue blubbers. I mean, gobsmacking numbers. This is another one of my favorite species, Paraphila. It lives in the deep sea usually. And like this, it's actually quite beautiful. But like this, it's not nearly so beautiful. This fjord in Norway, where this photo was taken, has no more fish. The jellyfish have eaten all the fish. They eat the eggs and larvae, and the fish just can't survive. And this is another one of my favorites. I love its icy blue coloration. This is from the Eastern Mediterranean off Israel. But in these sorts of numbers, it's not pretty at all. So each of these whitish, bluish blobs that you see was taken out of the intake pipes at a nuclear power plant in Israel. It had an emergency shutdown. And I'm sure I don't need to explain the details about how dangerous an emergency shutdown of a nuclear power plant could be. You really don't want emergencies with nuclear power plants, just saying. This is another one of my favorites. This is the sea tomato. Sorry, I'm not going to go through all of my favorites, I promise, but this is another one. The sea tomato, Crambion, occurs in Broome these days, and Exmouth as well, sometimes in very large numbers, and sometimes in even larger numbers, and sometimes in even larger numbers. And speaking of larger, this bad boy, that is not an exaggeration. They really do get that big. That's actually kind of a juvenile there. They get about 2 meters across the body, and they weigh, drawing a blank, about, sorry, I think they, I can't remember. I think they weigh about 400 kilos or something like that. No, maybe it's 400 pounds. Anyway, sorry, but they're huge. I mean, you know, the size of a sumo wrestler, size of a refrigerator, absolutely huge. And they're doing a lot of damage to fishermen's nets. They're so big they can't pull the nets out, or they capsize the boats. But, you know, something's fueling that massive growth rate, and that's the plankton in the water and the eggs and larvae of the fish that the fishermen can't fish. So there's many, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of species of jellyfish, and in my humble opinion, they're all beautiful and they all have their own interesting story. But regardless of where you're talking about or what you're talking about, you know, there's so many species around the world, not every species, but hundreds of species that when they bloom into these superabundances, they're a visible indicator that something is out of balance in the ocean. We tend to see these biggest blooms, excuse me, absolutely should not have had the Pepsi before talking to y'all. Sorry about that. Anyway, you know, where we see the biggest of these indicator blooms is in areas with more impacts, more human impacts. And, you know, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these places around the world that have been well studied about, you know, what's going on. So we're not naive to what's going on, and it's not a good picture. Oh, well, what's going on? So when we think of overfishing, climate change, pollution, things like that, eutrophication, by the way, is just it's a fancy word for too much nutrients or too much sewage, too much fertilizer. But when we think of these different things, we tend to think of them separately. Like one day we'll think about overfishing, and then, I don't know, a week later, a month later, whatever, we might think about climate change or whatever. But all of these things are happening in the water at the same time, and they're affecting the organisms that live there at the same time. It's just too much. It is just too much. Jellyfish create an interesting feedback. Well, they don't create it, sorry, but they exploit it, I should say. We're creating it, actually. They're just enjoying it. So the impacts that we're causing to the ocean, you know, the pollution, the warming, you know, the fishing out of fish, it leaves fewer predators and competitors of the jellyfish, which makes more ecospace and more food for more jellies, which then prey on and compete with the fish, which leaves fewer predators and competitors, etc. And so we get this positive feedback loop that, in my view, is not very positive at all, rather negative, actually. So it's all because of the food chain. We normally think of the food chain as big things eat little things, fast things eat slow things, smart things eat stupid things. But jellyfish turn this food chain on its head. They're slower and smaller and stupider than the fish that they're preying on, but it's because they're eating the eggs and larvae of the fish. So this is what I call the jellyfish double whammy. That's a really scientific term, by the way. Of course it is. So the jellyfish double whammy goes like this. The jellyfish, oh, do you like my mouse, by the way? Isn't that cool? My little Portuguese man-o-war mouse. Yay. So the jellyfish are eating the eggs and the larvae of the fish, and they're also eating the plankton that the larvae would eat. So this double whammy of predation and competition is knocking the fish flat and keeping the fish flat. And so jellyfish can actually take over an ecosystem with this double whammy, and they take over the role of top predator, and they maintain that role of top predator, even though they're just jellyfish. Like in any other circumstance, they would be very poor predators, but we are giving them the conditions that they need to be the top predator. They should thank us. Seriously, they should write us thank you letters for this. So jellyfish are cool, right? Let's talk about weeds. When we think of weeds, we think of dandelions. We think of some weedy grasses. We think of all kinds of plant weeds, right? But jellyfish are the weeds of the ocean. They're the weeds of the animal world. They're kind of like they're like the cockroaches, right? So they've got this weird life cycle where they've got the jellyfish stage, and then they've got this little polyp stage, like a little sea anemone, and they go between these two life cycles. They alternate their generations, and it allows them to exploit different conditions and overwinter and things. So they've got this really amazing life cycle that's built for really weathering through difficult times. They can clone in 13 different ways. Come on. Cloning is cool. Jellyfish clone in 13 ways. That's how cool they are. They're tactile feeders, meaning that they don't need to see to eat, so it can be absolutely murky water where a fish would never be able to find food, and jellyfish just go, ho-dee-do-dee-do-dee-do, ooh, got something on the tentacles, right? So they're absolutely great at murky water. They grow incredibly fast, and if there's no food available, they degrow, and then when food becomes available, they just regrow. No harm, no foul. They don't care. They're temperature tolerant, they're salinity tolerant, and at least 4 species that we know of so far are truly biologically immortal. Come on, they're cool. People always say, why do you like jellyfish so much? Well, look at this slide. How could you not like jellyfish so much? Okay, but there's a serious side to this as well. Now, this looks just like a bunch of rocks, right? Like just big old whomping thing of rocks. Well, it's a bit more important and interesting than that. So each of these lumps, these different lumps that you see, each of these lumps is a jellyfish that fossilized more than 300 million years ago. So this is a jellyfish bloom of all these jellyfish that stranded at the same time and fossilized together hundreds of millions of years ago. Even more interestingly, in this quarry where I've worked, it's in central Wisconsin, in this quarry, there's 7 consecutive bedding planes of fossilized jellyfish blooms. They're like pages in a history book. And what this tells us is that jellyfish have been blooming since the beginning of time, and without doubt, they will keep blooming until the end of time. I think blooming is just what jellyfish do. And like I said, we are giving them the conditions to do it more. The oceans are dying to tell us something. We are suffering from our own successes. So what are we going to do about it? Do we party like there's no tomorrow? Do we gnash our teeth in angst and grief and misery? Do we pray? Or do we do what we can, while we can, when we can, what we can? I vote we do what we can. We have a choice. Thank you.
Usually there would be a round of applause from the auditorium, but you get me and Julie.
It's okay. I can feel the applause, you know. Like
Good.
Feel it, you know.
Amazing. Thank you.
I thought that was.
Oh, look at all the applauses. Oh,
yeah.
Thanks. I'm doing a screen grab of that because you guys are awesome. Thank you. Aw, thanks you guys.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions.
I was just going to say, we can open it up to questions, and I'm absolutely happy to take questions.
Okay, so Mitch wants to know, do they all sting?
Ah, excellent question. I love this one. Yes and no. So every jellyfish species except one does sting. And the one is really weird. So the one is this incredibly weird blubber that it only lives in this jellyfish lake in Palau, and it's over thousands and thousands of years, maybe longer than that. I don't really know. I don't think anybody knows, but it's evolved the lack of stingers. It does not have stinging cells because in the lake where it lives, it doesn't need them. So, it doesn't need them for predation. It doesn't need them for protection. So yeah, no stinging cells. So that's the only species of jellyfish that doesn't have stinging cells. But with that said, every other 4,000 species of jellyfish has stinging cells, but most of them we can't feel. So most of them are either the jellyfish is so small and they don't have very many stinging cells, or the stinging cells are so small and the toxin is so mild that it either can't get through our skin that we feel it, or it gets through and we just go, meh, so what? But some of them that can't sting through our skin, if you get them, in the mouth, the nose, the eye, something like that, or one of my favorites, guys picking them off the fishing net and then going and taking a whiz and holding sensitive areas of skin. And I honestly, I get people every year writing to me going, oh my God, I think I just stung myself. It's like, yeah, don't do that, But so they do sting, even if we don't feel the sting, they still have stinging cells and they're still capable of injecting venom into us. Every jellyfish, and not just jellyfish, corals, sea anemones, sea pens, sea fans, sea pansies, any organism that's in the phylum Cnidaria, there's a capital C, Cnidaria, Cnidaria, and this is the phylum of Cnidae-bearing animals, and the Cnidae, that's Greek for stinging cell, and actually, might be Latin. Sorry, bad Lisa. Anyway, but suffice it to say, it's a really old dead language, okay? But so the stinging cells are the defining character of the phylum Cnidaria, and that's the jellyfish and corals and their kin. So they do all sting except Mystigus.
Lisa, she'll show her.
Oh, Terry's wanting to know if you'll share your lovely door with people. Your mermaid.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. I love you. So I don't know if you guys can see that. Hang on, let me see if I can. Wait, how do I? No, that's not going to work. I thought that might work.
We can see it.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
How do I make it? I don't know how to make myself big.
I don't know, but we can see it. Cool.
Okay, so so this is my that's my sort of logo. That's actually Saint Inger. She's my alter ego. I write poetry under Saint Inger. Saint Inger, of course, is Stinger. That's my alter ego. So if you ever see poetry by Saint Inger, you'd be like, oh yeah, I know her.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Saint Inger. So that's my mermaid with the box jellyfish instead of the fish.
Excellent.
Very cool.
So Terry also wants to know, are we seeing more jellyfish blooms or jellyfish blooms more often in Southeast Queensland?
Look, it's a really good question. Okay, the quick and dirty, accurate answer is we don't know. Okay, nobody's doing research on this. We don't know. But I rather suspect, it's an educated guess. So I want to be clear, there's a bit of, arm waving speculation here because, the research hasn't been done, so we don't know for sure. But I suspect the answer might be yes, a little bit, like not super, super bad, but, Catastylus, the blue blubber, has been around since the beginning of time. It's been blooming since the beginning of time. But in the last maybe 10 years, gosh, some of these blooms have just been gobsmacking, like really, 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 really serious. And we've been seeing very, very huge blooms of lion's manes the last few years as well. And that's actually a species that I named and classified in 2010. The lion's mane is called Cyania barkeri. I named it after the head lifeguard with Surf Lifesaving up at Mackay, Paul Barker. And so this is our common Queensland lion's mane, and gosh, I just never would have thought it would be in the kind of numbers it's been in lately. So it does make me wonder what's going on with that. I mean, both of these, the blubbers and the lion's manes, are in groups that are known from around the world to respond to disturbances in the ocean. And so I don't know specifically what disturbances they might be responding to, and I don't even know for sure that they are responding to disturbances. It may just be that they've always been in these kind of numbers and they were just never reported before. Really don't know, but I think the types of numbers that they're in have the look and feel to me of being a little bit more than normal, put it that way. So I don't know, it would be great if somebody wanted to do Raylene, I'm talking to you there. Or anybody, it doesn't have to be Raylene, but, I just happen to know Raylene. But yeah, look, it's a wide open question, and it's not only a wide open question, but I think it's an important question. So watch this space. Hopefully somebody will seize the moment and do it.
Excellent. We'll hold Raylene to that one. Joanna wants to know how can some jellyfish species be immortal? Can you please explain?
Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you asked this. So immortality, I mean, come on. Seriously, wrap your head around this, right? Since the beginning of human existence, our ancestors, like everybody, I think probably every human who's ever lived has done two things in common that weaves its way through every culture, every time, every age, every continent, every population. We look up at the moon and we wonder what it would be like to walk on the moon. And we wonder when we see somebody we love who's just passed away, and we wonder what it would be like to be immortal. And never since the beginning of time, with humans thinking these questions, I'm willing to go out on a limb and say, never did anybody think that immortality would first be discovered in jellyfish. But there you go. Indeed, it has been. So they are truly biologically immortal. This is not some weird stretch of looking at something in a funny way. So what they do, it's absolutely remarkable. So I mentioned before about the weird life cycle, right? So you've got the jellyfish part, that's the medusa. That's the part we recognize as the jellyfish. And then there's also little polyps, tiny little microscopic little things that are stuck to rocks and shells and whatever, tiny little hydroids, like little miniature coral polyps, but really small. So what these do is when the medusa dies, which in an experimental context is usually the researcher going with something, So there's usually a little bit of a forced dying situation there. And so when the medusa dies, something really astounding happens. when most things die, like humans, dogs, rhinoceroses, redwood trees, you know, like normally when things die, they disintegrate and the nutrients from their bodies become assimilated back into, you know, the seawater or the dirt or whatever, and then that's nutrients for the next generation, right? But Turritopsis dohrnii, which is the first species this was discovered with, but we now know of 3 more. But so I'm going to explain with Turritopsis dohrnii. So when Turritopsis dies, the medusa falls to the bottom and begins to disintegrate, but it doesn't turn to mush. The cells don't actually die, just the cells come apart, but they stay alive. And then the cells reaggregate not into another medusa, but into the polyp stage. And then the polyps give birth to more medusae, which die and disintegrate and turn into more polyps, and so on. Now, this has been going on in the laboratory for, you know, many, I mean, dozens of iterations, and it's for real. It really happens. So, you know, true biological immortality is actually possible. It's a little bit frightening if you think about it in terms of jellification of the sea, you know, but I try not to think about that.
Excellent. Thank you, RK. Shai wants to know if jellyfish genes or toxins have ever been used in medicine or for any other human application, like medieval poisoning.
Medieval poisoning. Hey, why not? I'm a fan, you know. Medieval poisoning. Oh, sorry. Actually, one of the most amazing medical discoveries of all time, so amazing, in fact, that it was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2016. So you know it's got to be amazing to get the Nobel Prize. And indeed, it is amazing. Came from jellyfish. So, and you guys in Southeast Queensland, you've got a species that's like a super close relative to the one that the Nobel Prize was awarded for. The jellyfish didn't get the Nobel, by the way, just to be clear. People got the Nobel. But in my narrative, the jellyfish got the Nobel, okay? In my narrative. So, sorry, I just lost my train of thought there for a second. Sorry about that. So what they did was these researchers extracted a luminescent, a fluorescent. There's a difference between luminescence and fluorescence. They extracted a fluorescent protein from this species of jellyfish, and they started using this protein to do various types of medical research, and they were able to synthesize the protein. So now it doesn't need to be extracted from jellyfish anymore, but the protein is called green fluorescent protein, or GFP, green fluorescent protein. And if you look it up, you will not believe how cool and amazing it is. They actually use it in everything from brain synapse imaging to heart research, to cancer research, to so many different things. And they've got a thing that they call brainbow, and it's where they can actually hook these different colors of green fluorescent protein, which is now not only green, it's in all these different colors of the rainbow, and they can implant these genes into different places in the genome and see what signals and what does this and that and everything. But there's also amazing, I would say, recreational uses of green fluorescent protein. No, not smoking it, although I have drank it. True story. So one of the early pioneers in green fluorescent protein is a friend of mine. And he had just created this really amazing disease diagnostic thing, and it was amazing. I mean, it's I don't know why we haven't really seen it, because it works and it's fantastic. But what it did was, you can put a bit of saliva or some blood or tears or urine or just some body fluid of whatever kind. I mean, when I tested it, I used my saliva. But, and then you just put it in, and it goes through a wash of this green fluorescent protein, and then it goes into a little detector thing, and it can scan for 96 different diseases at one time. And it takes like 5 minutes to scan for 96 diseases at the same time. And then the ones that you have light up, and it can sense them. And so he had just finished this, and he was really excited with it. And so he lived in Los Angeles at the time, and I was in Berkeley at the time, and he brought his gadget up to show me, and he said, you've got to meet me at I can't think of what the there was a really fancy restaurant in San Francisco that had these really beautiful jellyfish chandeliers and this whole marine theme and these octopus chairs and all this. And he said, you know, meet me at this place. And so we met in the bar, and he bought 2 glasses of champagne, and he poured some of this powdered glowing stuff in there, and everybody's like, oh, you can't drink that. Oh, I wouldn't drink that if I were you. And he looks at me and he goes, so anyway, we, you know, cling, and we drank it. And I mean, it was perfectly safe. And today, this very same product is used in glow-in-the-dark cake frostings, glow-in-the-dark squirt gun globs, you know, just, I mean, there's an incredible array of things with this, and it's all because of green fluorescent protein. And so my friend Bruce, what he was doing with it, he was actually a surgeon, and he had operated on too many cancer patients where he wasn't able to get all of the cancer without butchering the patient. And he had this idea that if he could light it up with bioluminescence, then he could just turn out the lights, operate in the dark, and get every last little bit of it, because it would be glowing in the dark. And so this is what he was trying to invent. And I don't know whether he was successful in inventing it or not, but it is in use. Somebody did invent it. It may have been him, actually, because I know he was working on it, but it's in use today. Oh. And so, sorry, that's the long explanation of green fluorescent protein, but it is bloody exciting. And you can even buy, this is a true story, you can buy glow-in-the-dark dogs and cats so you don't trip over them at night. I didn't make it up. So, you know, and this is green.
Oh dear.
Fluorescent protein. There you go.
Oh dear. Okay, I've got one more question. Well, actually,
sure.
A couple. I've got one here. Do jellyfish regenerate their tentacles if they get cut or bitten off?
Oh, they do. Quickly, rapidly. Oh yeah, actually, jellyfish are incredibly regenerative. Not only their tentacles, but they can actually regenerate just about any body part. And this is very cool. And so jellyfish are built on a radial symmetry, which means that they've got 4 or 8 or 16 identical segments, like a pizza, right? Where each segment, well, on a pizza, it's not quite identical because the pepperonis are all center, right? But you know what I mean. Like, so jellyfish are built on this kind of radially repeating body plan. And so any of these parts can regenerate, but they don't even need the whole part. So I always have to laugh. Every year, you know, people say to me, oh yeah, we were out diving and we saw this jellyfish, but it's okay. You know, we were cutting them all in half to kill them. We were doing our part. And I'm like, oi, you fool, right? Because when you cut jellyfish in half, both halves are going to regrow. So you've now got double the jellyfish. He can grow very quickly. So inside of a week, you've now got twice as many jellyfish. You can back a boat motor rotor thing. Obviously, I'm not a boat person, but you can back a boat over a jellyfish and go with it, right? Some of it will probably like blend up into too small of pieces that they can't regenerate, but many of those chunks will regenerate. So, you know, if you cut a jellyfish into 32 decent sized chunks, with all it takes is a fragment of some of the main organs. And if you've got a fragment of that, the whole jellyfish will regrow. So you cut them into 32 pieces, you've now, in a week, you've got 32 jellyfish.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Anne-Marie has got a question. So she's been swimming at Noosa Main Beach every other day over the summer, and there's sea lice in the water almost every time. So what does this really mean in terms of risk? That the water is warm enough for Irukandji? Are they only around in summer months if they've always been here?
It's a really good question. It's a good question. So certainly, if Irukandji were swimming around, those would be the kinds of conditions that I would expect them in. And with Noosa being a bit closer to Fraser than, say, Sunshine Coast or Gold Coast, you know, it's possible, but we have no evidence. I know of no Irukandji stings at Noosa. Not even Morbaka. I mean, there must be Morbakas at Noosa, like there must be, because it's north and south of there. But, you know, as far as the Fraser type Irukandji, which is probably not Morbaka, you know, just based on the sting, it doesn't seem like Morbaka stings. So I don't know. I mean, I think if there were Irukandjis at Noosa, we'd know, because there's people in the water, people end up sick, people are stung, you know, you find out. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's media reports, you know. So my gut feeling is they're not around, but those are the types of conditions that, you know, if that were in Cairns, I'd be like, get out of that water, you know. My sincerest recommendation would be, don't let it freak you out. Don't let it stop you from swimming. But I would wear protective clothing, protective swimwear, like full body, because I think, you know, even if those conditions were at Fraser, we would still expect to see Irukandjis in those conditions at Fraser. So, yeah, I think it's worth wearing the protective clothing. And look, you know, it's good sun protection. It'll protect you from the sea lice stings. You know, I mean, for me, the sun protection is a good reason alone, because there's some really compelling scientific reports that the chemicals in the sunscreen, you know, we're told slip, slop, slap, and we do religiously, right? But the chemicals in the sunscreen can hurt marine life, including particularly corals, but, you know, other types of marine life as well. And I've also read some reports that the chemicals in the sunscreen might be hurting us humans. So, you know, you can slip, slop, slap, and you're all greasy. You might be causing some funny things to your own skin and your body. You know, it's probably leaching off and hurting the critters that you're enjoying, you know, watching and preserving and conserving. Or you can put on a lycra suit. You don't get the stings. You're not leaching any weird thing. You're not, you know, running any sort of risk of anything. And you're probably getting better sun protection with the lycra suit than you would be with the sunscreen anyway. And at the end, you know, when you're done swimming, you just peel it off and you're not all greasy, and neither are the corals. So to my mind, it's a far more eco-friendly approach and more effective as well. And it protects you from stings. So bonus, 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 you know.
Okay, so Anne-Marie said thanks for that. Mitch wants to know if the ones washed up on the beach, so any jellyfish washed up on the beach, are they dead or should we put them back in the sea?
Very good question. So death for a jellyfish is kind of a funny thing, you know, like with humans, there's a time of death, right? Like they can, you know, the doctors can call it 8:13 p.m. time of death, you know, that kind of thing, right? Put it on the death certificate. With jellyfish, it's not quite like that, you know, like they die in parts, and this part dies, and then that part, and then that part, and, you know, if that part dies, but this part can still regenerate and build a whole new that part, and even if that part's dead, this part can still breed, and you know what I mean? Like, death is kind of a funny thing for a jellyfish. So I think the reason I'm hesitating, so part of me wants to say, oh, put them back in the water, be nice to them, give them a chance. But then part of me wants to say, what are you, crazy? Like, these are pests, you know? So I'm really on the fence because I love jellyfish, and I think they're amazing, and I think they're cool, and, you know, they're just part of the amazing tapestry of life that makes up our oceans. So, you know, give it a chance. But then I also think, oh yeah, but they are kind of pesty and they're pretty much eating everything. So probably no harm, no foul if you don't put them back in. But it's nice to them if you do. So I don't know. How's that for not a very good answer?
Sounds like a politician.
Well, no, I'm not a politician, I swear, but it's just, you know, I'm really, I guess, so my head and my heart are in completely different minds about this, because, you know, my heart says, oh yes, please put them back in. And my head says, what are you, crazy? So I think you're going to have to explore your own head and your heart and see who wins.
Yeah. Also, Irukandjis are actually everywhere, almost everywhere in the world, or?
Yeah, so excellent question. Thank you for asking. So we normally think of Irukandjis as being North Queensland things. It's like, oh, don't go to Cairns, there's Irukandjis there. Well, let me tell you, I would rather go to Cairns because at least they know the Irukandjis are there. They're taking precautions against the Irukandjis, and they know how to treat them really, really well. You go to a place like Bali or Fiji or Samoa or New Caledonia, all of which I've been to, and all of which, actually I haven't been to Bali, but I've been to the other places, and they're absolutely magnificent places to go. I love them. I would go back in a heartbeat to any of those places or all of those places. But the fact of the matter is they have Irukandjis too. Hawaii has Irukandjis every month reliably. You can set your watch to it. The Caribbean has Irukandjis every month. You can set your watch to it. In fact, there's species that cause Irukandji Syndrome that are known as far north as Boston and Ireland, and as far south as Melbourne and Cape Town. Wow. So we think of Irukandjis being a North Queensland thing, but in fact, Irukandjis are found in pretty much all of the usable and swimmable oceans and seas of the world. It's just that they were originally discovered in North Queensland, and most of the research about them as organisms, but also about their safety, has been focused in North Queensland, but no, man, they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Right, thank you.
Information to know.
I mean, they really are like a sinister novel waiting for me. I should write that.
Amazing. Julie, was that all the questions we got through?
Yep, I think we covered just about everything there.
Amazing. Thank you. And in the chat, we'll share it with you, Lisa. There's lots of thank you, amazing talk. Woohoo, great stuff. Talk.
Yep.
So there was a lot of that in there as well, which you can catch up on later.
Thanks, you guys. Look, it's been fun. You know, I mean, this is such a weird thing to be giving this talk on Zoom instead of in person. But, you know, it has allowed me to give the talk.
Yeah.
From the comfort of my dining room and, you know, wearing my fleece and, you know, so
That's very cool.
yeah, it's opened up an amazing opportunity that would have been harder before. So
yeah. Well, next time, hopefully, when you come up, whenever you're visiting maybe Sunny Coast Council, you can pop in and do a real life talk. We'll see.
I would love that. Look, I love the Sunny Coast. Raylene will be laughing right now. She's like, oh yeah, she really does.
Yeah, you know,
I pretty much come to the Sunny Coast every chance I get.
Amazing. Alrighty, cool. Well, if that's all the questions, there's still a lot of thank yous and amazing. This was so interesting and insightful, so you'll catch up on all that.
Thanks, you guys.
Other than that, if you had anything else to add, otherwise we'll wrap up. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Lisa?
I can't think of anything else, but I guess I just want to make sure, you know, if anybody else has a last minute question, I just don't want to cut people off if they, or I mean, look, you know, people can always contact me. I'm totally findable through the Jellyfish app. I'm findable through everything pretty much, like, you know, Facebook and email and my website. I've got like 6 websites or I don't know.
And
8.
if we get anything come through to us, we'll just flick it on to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody thinks of questions later or they're feeling shy and they just, you know, don't want to do the group thing or whatever, just, you know, I'm always thrilled to talk about jellyfish.
Amazing. We're thrilled to hear you talk about jellyfish. All right. Thanks, guys. So thank you so much, Lisa. We'll be sending you a little present in the mail if you can give us your address.
So sweet.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you so much for being our number one.
Can you send me some sunshine? That would that would be so cool. I would really like that.
Okay, maybe I'll sprinkle in some sand for you, and that'll be
that would be awesome.
Are you allowed to do that, really? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I should not say that.
Maybe not the sand, but the sunshine.
Okay,
I could really
I'll do that.
use.
I'll do that. All right. Thank you, everyone. If there's any more questions, flick them to us or find Lisa. Our next Coastal Coral Talk is on March the 9th, and if you want to be there, we'll see you there. Otherwise, you can jump on our socials, subscribe to our mailing list, and see what other events we've got coming up. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Everyone.
Thanks, you guys. Bye.